The fluorescent lights of the hospital corridor flickered overhead, casting long shadows that seemed to mock my existence. I remember the day everything changed like it was yesterday. The day my world shattered into a million microscopic pieces, each fragment representing a dream, a hope, a future that suddenly seemed impossibly distant. My name is Elena Martinez, and at 19, I was supposed to be planning my future, not fighting for my survival. The genetic test results lay before me, a cruel piece of paper that declared my body a battlefield of mutations and uncertainties. Huntington's syndrome, a rare neurological disorder that would slowly, mercilessly rob me of everything: my movement, my memory, my very sense of self. It's progressive, Dr. Rees had said, his voice clinical, detached. The symptoms typically begin between ages 30 and 50. But in your case, the genetic markers suggest an earlier onset. I remembered how my hands had trembled, how the world seemed to tilt on its axis. My mother, once my greatest supporter, sat silent, her eyes avoiding mine. My father's jaw clenched, a telltale sign of the storm brewing beneath his stoic exterior. "We can't do this," my father said later that evening, the words cutting through the suffocating silence of our living room. "The medical bills, the care, the constant support, it's too much." My sister, Maria, stood by the window, her recent college graduation photos still displayed proudly on the mantel. She was the golden child, straight A's, a full scholarship, a future bright and unblemished. And then there was me, the genetic anomaly, the unexpected burden. "We can't just give up," I pleaded, my voice breaking. But even as the words left my mouth, I saw the decision in their eyes. 2 weeks later, I found myself packed and ready to leave. No dramatic goodbyes, no tearful embraces, just a cold efficiency that spoke volumes about their decision. My Aunt Elena, the woman I was named after, was my only lifeline. "You'll stay with me," she said, her weathered hands squeezing mine. She was a retired nurse, tough as nails and with a heart larger than the world could comprehend. The first year was brutal. While my family celebrated Maria's achievements, her internship, her bright future, I was learning to navigate a body that was slowly becoming my enemy. Aunt Elena became my rock, my researcher, my fiercest advocate. "They may have given up on you," she'd say, mixing herbal teas and researching experimental treatments, "but I never will." We spent countless nights poring over medical journals, connecting with rare disease support groups, exploring every possible avenue. When traditional medicine offered little hope, we looked deeper. My aunt's connections in the medical world became my lifeline. "There's a research program," she told me one night, her eyes sparkling with a hope I'd almost forgotten existed. "They're looking for patients with unique genetic markers for an experimental treatment." The application process was grueling. Genetic testing, psychological evaluations, endless medical records. But for the first time since my diagnosis, I felt something I'd almost forgotten: hope. Months passed. Treatments were experimental, painful. Some days I could barely move. Other days I felt a glimmer of something miraculous happening within my body. The research team became my second family, scientists and doctors who saw me not as a victim, but as a potential breakthrough. "Your genetic mutation," Dr. Harris, the lead researcher, would tell me, "it's unique. Most would see it as a curse. We see it as an opportunity." Meanwhile, my biological family's silence was deafening. No calls, no messages. Maria's graduation photos continued to haunt me, a reminder of the life I was supposed to have, the future that had been so casually discarded. But I was changing, not just physically, but in ways no one could have predicted. Each treatment, each research session was transforming me from a patient to something more, a potential savior for others with similar genetic challenges. "We're close to something groundbreaking," Dr. Harris would say, his excitement barely contained. "Your body is responding in ways we've never seen before." As the first year of treatment concluded, I made a decision. This wouldn't be my defeat. This would be my revolution. Little did my family know, the girl they had written off was about to become something they could never have imagined. The girl they left behind was learning to rise, to fight, to become a beacon of hope for those who had been told their genetic fate was sealed. My journey was just beginning, and the world had no idea what was coming. The research lab became my sanctuary, a place where my genetic condition transformed from a death sentence to a scientific marvel. 3 years had passed since my family had essentially abandoned me, and every moment was a testament to human resilience. Dr. Harris called me in early one morning, his usually composed demeanor crackling with barely contained excitement. "Elena," he said, spreading genetic charts across the conference table. "Your body is doing something unprecedented." The experimental treatment had revealed something extraordinary. My unique genetic mutation, once considered a devastating flaw, was actually showing remarkable adaptive capabilities. Where most Huntington's patients would deteriorate, my cells were developing unprecedented neural protective mechanisms. "We're looking at a potential breakthrough in genetic medicine," Dr. Harris explained, his hands tracing the complex molecular diagrams. "Your genetic structure is essentially learning to fight itself." Each treatment became a carefully orchestrated dance of medical innovation. I was no longer just a patient. I was a living research project, a beacon of hope for genetic research. The medical team treated me with a combination of scientific curiosity and profound respect. Dr. Rodriguez, a brilliant neurogenetics specialist, would often marvel at my progress. "Most patients would be wheelchair-bound by now," she'd say, reviewing my latest test results. "But you're defying every medical expectation." My body was becoming a testament to human adaptability. Muscle strength that should have been deteriorating was instead showing signs of regeneration. Neurological tests revealed neural pathways rebuilding themselves in ways that challenged everything medical science understood about genetic disorders. During this time, I made a decision. I would not just be a passive recipient of treatment. I would become a medical professional myself. The university initially hesitated. A student with a progressive genetic disorder pursuing a medical degree seemed counterintuitive. But Dr. Harris and my research team saw something different. They saw potential. "Your lived experience," Dr. Harris told me during one of our strategy meetings, "is just as valuable as any medical textbook. You understand this condition in a way no textbook ever could." My medical journey began. Part-time studies, combined with ongoing research, became my new normal. Each lecture, each medical text was studied with a passion born from survival. I wasn't just learning medicine. I was rewriting its understanding of genetic conditions. My Aunt Elena continued to be my strongest supporter. "You're proving them wrong," she'd say, her eyes filled with pride. "Not just your family who abandoned you, but everyone who ever doubted you." The medical community began to take notice. Conference presentations about my case drew international attention. Where most saw a tragic genetic condition, I was becoming a symbol of hope, of medical possibility. 3 years into my research and medical studies, something remarkable happened. The experimental treatment that had been developed partially through my unique genetic response showed promising results for other Huntington's patients. "We're seeing neural regeneration in preliminary trials," Dr. Rodriguez announced during a critical research presentation. "Mechanisms developed from Elena's unique genetic adaptation are showing potential in slowing, and in some cases, partially reversing neurological deterioration." My personal triumph was becoming a broader medical breakthrough. Meanwhile, whispers of my progress began to reach my family. Maria, now working in a corporate marketing role, heard rumors about her sister's medical breakthrough. My parents caught glimpses of scientific publications mentioning my name. But I wasn't doing this for their validation. I was doing this for every patient who had been told their genetic fate was sealed. By the time I completed my medical specialization, focusing on neurogenetics, I was no longer just a patient. I was a leading specialist, my own body a living testament to medical innovation. My first major research paper was published in one of the most prestigious medical journals. The title was simple yet profound: Genetic Adaptation, a New Perspective on Neurological Disorder Management. Dr. Harris stood beside me during the publication celebration. "You're not just changing your own narrative," he said, "you're changing medical understanding." The irony wasn't lost on me. The family that had once considered me a burden was now hearing about a medical breakthrough that carried my name. Every conference, every publication was another nail in the coffin of their earlier dismissal. But this wasn't about revenge. This was about hope. About showing that genetic conditions weren't a death sentence, but potentially a pathway to understanding human adaptability. As I prepared for the next phase of research, a larger medical center offering me a comprehensive research position, I reflected on my journey. From a scared 19-year-old facing a devastating diagnosis to a leading medical specialist, I had transformed not just myself, but the very understanding of genetic medicine. My body, once considered a limitation, had become my greatest strength. The invitation arrived on a crisp autumn morning, an international medical conference where I was set to present our groundbreaking research on genetic adaptation. As I prepared my presentation, a familiar name caught my eye on the attendee list: Martinez. My family was coming. The conference hall buzzed with anticipation. Researchers, medical professionals, and international specialists filled the room, their eyes fixed on the stage where I would soon share our revolutionary findings. I adjusted my white coat, a symbol of everything I fought to become. Dr. Harris gave me a reassuring nod from the front row. "You're ready," he mouthed silently. As I began my presentation, the room fell into a hushed silence. Genetic charts, molecular diagrams, and breakthrough treatment protocols filled the massive screen behind me. But this wasn't just a scientific presentation. This was my story. Genetic disorders have long been viewed as predetermined paths. I began, my voice steady and confident. But what if we could rewrite that narrative? I spoke about my personal journey, the diagnosis that was supposed to be a death sentence, the experimental treatments, the unexpected cellular adaptations. Each slide was a testament to human resilience, to the possibility of medical miracles. Halfway through my presentation, I noticed them. My parents, my sister, seated in the back of the conference hall, their faces a mixture of shock, pride, and something else, remorse. The presentation concluded to thunderous applause. Colleagues rushed forward with questions, with congratulations. But my eyes were fixed on my family. They approached cautiously, as if I might disappear if they moved too quickly. "Elena," my mother began, her voice trembling. We had no idea." I stood my ground, professional, composed. "No," I replied quietly, "you didn't." My father, once so dismissive, now looked smaller, defeated. "The research you've done," he stammered, "it's incredible." Maria, my sister, stepped forward. Her perfectly pressed suit and corporate polish seemed suddenly insignificant compared to the medical breakthrough I just presented. "How?" she asked simply. "How did you do this?" I couldn't help the slight smile that crossed my lips. By not giving up. By believing in myself when no one else did. The medical community surrounded me, congratulating me, discussing potential collaborations. My family watched, outsiders to this world I created. A world where my supposed weakness had become my greatest strength. Later that evening, a private dinner with the conference's key researchers. Dr. Harris raised a glass. "To Dr. Elena Martinez," he announced, "who has potentially changed the landscape of genetic medicine forever." My family sat at a separate table watching. I could see the conflict in their eyes. Pride, regret, a desperate desire to reconnect. As the evening wound down, my mother approached me. Her hands were shaking. "We were wrong," she said, the words seemingly torn from her. So completely wrong. I looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time in years. "Yes," I agreed quietly, "you were." But it wasn't a moment of bitter triumph. It was a moment of understanding, of closure. "Your Aunt Elena," my father spoke up, "she never stopped believing in you, never stopped fighting for you." I thought of my beloved aunt, the woman who had been my true family when my biological family had abandoned me. The woman who had held my hand through the darkest moments, who had seen my potential when everyone else saw only a diagnosis. "She was the only one who saw me," I replied simply. The next day, a surprising invitation, a joint research proposal, not from my family, but from the medical center where I now worked. They wanted to expand the genetic adaptation research to create a comprehensive program that could help countless patients. My sister approached me afterwards. "Can we talk?" she asked. We sat in a quiet conference room. The tension was palpable. "I'm sorry," Maria said, her voice breaking. "We were so focused on my success, on the traditional path, that we couldn't see yours." I listened, not with the anger of the past, but with the compassion of someone who had learned that true strength comes from understanding, not from resentment. "I don't need your apology," I told her, "but I'm willing to move forward." The research continued. Each breakthrough was another chapter in a story of survival, of hope. My genetic condition, once considered a curse, was now a beacon of medical possibility. Years of rejection had taught me something profound. That family isn't about blood, but about support, about believing in someone's potential. My Aunt Alina, now retired, would often say, "They may have given up on you, but the universe never did." As I looked out over the medical research center, a place I now led, a place that was changing lives, I realized she was right. My journey wasn't just about overcoming a genetic disorder. It was about proving that our greatest limitations can become our most extraordinary strengths. The Martinez family had once written me off as a burden. Now I was writing medical history, and this was only the beginning.